My dear friend, have you ever wondered why the most powerful statement in all of Scripture, I am that I am, was hidden from you? Why they taught you to beg and plead, when you were meant to declare and receive? Today, I'm going to share what the mystics knew, what the ancients practiced, and what transforms ordinary people into masters of their destiny. You know, for over 40 years, I've watched people struggle with the most basic questions of life. They come to me asking why their prayers seem to go unanswered, why they feel so separated from their good, why some people seem to have everything while they have so little. And every single time, I tell them the same thing. You've been looking in the wrong direction, my friend. You've been seeking outside yourself what was always within you. The truth is, everything you've been taught about prayer, about manifestation, about your relationship with the divine has been backwards. You are not separate from the creative force. You are the creative force expressing itself as you. And today, I want to save you decades of struggle by showing you exactly what this means and how to use it. When you understand what I'm about to share with you, your entire world will begin to reorganize itself. Your relationships will improve. Your health will flourish. Your finances will expand. And most importantly, you'll finally feel the deep peace that comes from knowing who you really are. You'll stop begging the universe for your good and start commanding it into existence, because you'll understand that you and the universe are one and the same thing. But first, let me tell you why this knowledge has been hidden from you. For centuries, institutions have benefited from keeping people feeling small, dependent, and separate from their own divine power. They taught you that you're a sinner who needs salvation, that you're powerless without external intervention, that you must earn and deserve your good through suffering and sacrifice. This is not the truth, my friend. This is a system designed to keep you seeking outside yourself for what you already possess within. The real teachers, the true mystics, the enlightened beings, throughout history have always known the secret I'm about to share with you. But this knowledge was often hidden, coded in symbols and parables, shared only with those who were ready to receive it. Today you are ready. Today, you are going to learn the most powerful secret in the universe. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the name of that spiritual being, the identity of what you truly are, is I am that I am. Now let me take you back to a moment that changed everything for me. I was a young man, struggling with my own faith, wondering why some of my prayers were answered and others seemed to fall on deaf ears. I had been raised in the traditional religious teachings that told me I was separate from God, that I needed to earn divine favor, that I was inherently flawed and needed salvation. But something inside me rebelled against this teaching. Deep in my heart, I felt a knowing that there had to be more. There had to be a direct connection, a way to experience the divine presence, not just on Sundays in church, but every moment of every day. I was reading the Old Testament, the story of Moses and the burning bush, when I came across those mysterious words, I am that I am. Most people read right past this moment, but something made me stop. Here was Moses, asking God what his name was. And the answer wasn't Jehovah or Allah, or any of the names we've been taught. The answer was, I am that I am. In Hebrew, it's Ehia Asher Ehia, which literally means, I am what I am, or I will be what I will be. I sat there for hours, turning this phrase over in my mind. What if this wasn't God telling Moses his name? What if this was God revealing the very nature of creation itself? What if I am that I am wasn't describing a separate deity somewhere in the clouds, but the fundamental principle by which all things come into existence? That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. Every time we say I am, we are using the creative name of God. We are declaring our identity into existence. We are not describing what we are creating what we become. I began to study this principle in every spiritual tradition I could find. In the Hindu tradition, they speak of Tatvamasi, thou art that. In Buddhism, they teach about the Buddha nature that exists within every being. In Christianity, Jesus said, I and the Father are one, and taught his followers that they too were children of the Most High. All of these traditions were pointing to the same fundamental truth, The divine creative consciousness that we call God is not separate from us, it is us. We are individualized expressions of the one infinite creative power, each expressing through our unique human experience, but somewhere along the way, we forgot this truth. We began to see ourselves as separate, limited, powerless beings in need of external salvation. We started begging and pleading with a God out there to give us what we wanted, never realizing that the God we were seeking was the very consciousness through which we were doing the seeking. Let me share with you a story that will make this crystal clear. A few years ago, a successful executive came to see me. His name was Robert, and on paper, he had everything. The corner office on the 40th floor, the six-figure salary, the expensive car, the beautiful home in the suburbs. But inside, he felt empty, anxious, completely disconnected from any sense of purpose or joy. "Dr. Murphy," he said, slumping into the chair across from my desk, "I've achieved everything I thought I wanted, but I feel like I'm dying inside. I wake up every morning with this crushing weight on my chest. I go through the motions of my day, but nothing feels real. Nothing feels meaningful. What's wrong with me?" I looked at this man, intelligent, accomplished, seemingly successful by every external measure, and I could see the deep pain in his eyes. I had seen it countless times before. It's the pain of someone who has achieved everything the world says should make them happy, only to discover that external achievements cannot fill the void that comes from not knowing who you really are. "Robert," I said gently, "tell me, how do you complete the sentence 'I am' throughout your day?" He looked confused, so I explained. "When you wake up in the morning, when you're stuck in traffic, when you're in meetings, when you're lying in bed at night, how do you finish the sentence 'I am'?" As he thought about it, his face grew pale. "I am stressed," he whispered. "I am overwhelmed. I am not good enough. I am failing at everything that really matters. I am alone, even when I'm surrounded by people. I am just going through the motions. I am empty inside." Tears began to form in his eyes as he continued. "Oh my God, I've been creating my own misery, haven't I?" "Exactly, my friend," I said with deep compassion. "Your subconscious mind doesn't care whether what you declare after 'I am' is good for you or bad for you. It simply accepts whatever you consistently claim as true and sets about making it your reality." You see, Robert had unknowingly been using the most powerful creative force in the universe, his "I am" consciousness, to create experiences that matched his inner declarations. Every morning when he said, "I am stressed," he was commanding his subconscious mind to find evidence for stress in his day. When he declared, "I am not good enough," he was programming his mental and emotional systems to filter his experiences through the lens of inadequacy. His outer success could not overcome his inner declarations. In fact, the more externally successful he became, the more his inner voice seemed to shout that he was a fraud, that he didn't deserve it, that he was failing at what really mattered. His "I am" statements were like a radio frequency, and his life was tuning in perfectly to that frequency. I taught him what I'm about to teach you. I explained that every "I am" statement is not a description of current reality, it's a command to create future reality. When you say "I am tired," you're not just observing your current energy level, you're instructing your subconscious mind, your nervous system, your cellular structure, and your energy field to embody tiredness. When you say "I am broke," you're not just acknowledging your bank balance. You're activating the poverty consciousness that will influence every financial decision you make, every opportunity you notice or ignore, every action you take or fail to take regarding money. When you say "I am lonely," you're not just expressing how you feel in the moment. You're creating an energetic vibration that repels connection and attracts isolation. But here's the beautiful part. This same principle works in reverse. When you consciously choose to declare, "I am peaceful," you activate the peace that is your true nature. When you affirm, "I am abundant," you align with the infinite supply that is always available to you. When you proclaim, "I am loved," you open yourself to receive and express the love that is the very essence of who you are. I worked with Robert for several months, teaching him to become aware of his automatic "I am" declarations and to consciously choose new ones. Instead of waking up and immediately thinking, "I am dreading this day," he learned to declare, "I am excited about the possibilities this day holds." Instead of saying, "I am overwhelmed by my responsibilities," he began to affirm, "I am capable of handling everything on my plate with grace and ease." The transformation was remarkable. Within 60 days, this man's entire life had shifted. Not because his external circumstances changed first, but because he changed what he was declaring himself to be. His wife noticed that he smiled more, that he was present with her instead of distracted and distant. His children wanted to spend more time with him because he had become fun to be around again. At work, his stress levels dropped dramatically, and paradoxically, his performance improved. He began to enjoy his career again, to see meaning in his contributions. New opportunities started presenting themselves. His relationships with colleagues and clients became more harmonious and productive. His health improved. He lost the weight he had been carrying for years without even trying, because he was no longer stress eating or using food to fill the emptiness inside. He started sleeping better, waking up refreshed instead of exhausted. But the most significant change was in his sense of self. The deep anxiety that had plagued him for years began to dissolve. He started to feel a quiet confidence, a sense of inner peace that didn't depend on external circumstances. He discovered joy in simple things. A sunset, a conversation with a friend, a moment of silence in his garden. "Dr. Murphy," he said, during one of our sessions, "I feel like I've been living someone else's life for years. Now I'm finally living my own life. I understand now what you mean when you say I am that I am. I'm not just Robert the executive anymore. I'm the divine creative consciousness expressing itself as Robert. Everything feels different when I know who I really am." This is the power of understanding your true identity, my friend. When you realize that you are not a separate, limited being trying to get God's attention, but rather that you are the creative consciousness that we call God expressing itself through your unique human experience, everything changes. Now, let me share another story that illustrates this principle in a different way. About 5 years ago, a woman named Sarah came to see me who had been suffering from chronic illness for over 10 years. She had rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and several other conditions that the doctors said were incurable. She had tried everything: conventional medicine, alternative treatments, special diets, supplements, healing retreats, countless prayers for healing. Nothing worked. In fact, she seemed to be getting worse with each passing year. "Dr. Murphy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I've prayed every day for God to heal me, but I just keep getting sicker. I've been to healing services, I've had people lay hands on me, I've begged and pleaded and bargained with God. Doesn't God hear my prayers? Doesn't God want me to be well?" I could see the deep despair in her eyes, the resignation that comes from years of suffering with no relief in sight. I also noticed something else. The way she spoke about herself, the identity she had unconsciously adopted. "Sarah," I said gently, "I want you to listen to how you've been introducing yourself to me. You've told me that you have rheumatoid arthritis, that you are chronically ill, that you suffer from these conditions. But tell me, how do you complete the sentence, 'I am,' when you think about your health?" She looked at me strangely for a moment, then began to speak. "I am sick," she said automatically. "I am in constant pain. I am tired all the time. I am limited by my conditions. I am a burden to my family. I am never going to get better. I am broken." As she spoke these words, I watched her energy shift. Her shoulders slumped further, her breathing became more shallow, her entire body seemed to contract with each negative declaration. "Sarah," I said with infinite compassion, "you've been praying to God to heal you while simultaneously declaring yourself to be sick. Your 'I am' statements are more powerful than your prayers, because they are your prayers. You've been commanding your subconscious mind to maintain your illness." This was a revelation to her. She had never realized that her self-talk, her inner identity, her constant declarations of sickness were actually working against her healing. She thought she was just being realistic, just acknowledging her current condition. She didn't understand that every time she said, "I am sick," she was reinforcing the very pattern she wanted to change. "But Dr. Murphy," she protested, "I don't feel healthy. Isn't this just lying to myself? How can I say I'm healthy when I'm obviously not?" This is one of the most common objections I encounter, so let me address it clearly. When you begin to change your "I am" declarations, you're not lying to yourself, you're choosing your direction. You're not denying your current experience. You're deciding your future experience. "Sarah," I explained, "your current physical condition is the result of years of thinking, feeling, and declaring yourself to be sick. Your body is simply outpicturing the mental and emotional patterns that have become habitual for you. When you change your inner declarations, you change the instructions you're giving to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is what controls every function of your body." I taught her to change her inner declarations gradually. Instead of "I am sick," she began to declare, "I am perfectly healthy." Instead of "I am in pain," she affirmed, "I am comfortable and strong." Instead of "I am tired," she proclaimed, "I am filled with vital energy." Instead of "I am broken," she declared, "I am whole and complete." At first, her rational mind rebelled. Every symptom seemed to scream that these new declarations were false. But I taught her to persist, to feel these statements even when her body hadn't yet caught up with her new identity. "The feeling is the secret," I told her. "Don't just say the words. Embody the feeling of being healthy. Walk as a healthy person walks. Breathe as a healthy person breathes. Think as a healthy person thinks. Make decisions from health consciousness, not sickness consciousness." I also taught her to understand that her body was not her enemy, but rather a faithful servant that was simply following the instructions it had been given through years of negative self-talk. "Your body wants to be healthy," I explained. "Health is its natural state, sickness is learned, and what has been learned can be unlearned." The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was steady and remarkable. Within the first month, Sarah noticed that she had more energy. Her sleep began to improve. The constant mental fog that had plagued her for years started to lift. By the third month, her pain levels had decreased significantly. She was able to do things she hadn't done in years: take walks, spend time in her garden, play with her grandchildren. Her doctors were amazed at the improvement in her blood work and the reduction in inflammation markers. Within 6 months, Sarah was completely symptom-free. All of her conditions had gone into what the doctors called spontaneous remission. But I knew it wasn't spontaneous at all. It was the natural result of aligning her inner declarations with her desired reality. "Dr. Murphy," she said during our last session together, tears of joy streaming down her face, "I understand now what you mean by 'I am that I am.' I'm not Sarah who has arthritis. I'm not Sarah who suffers from chronic illness. I am divine health expressing perfectly through the form called Sarah. I am the healing power of God made manifest. This is who I've always been. I just forgot for a while." This is the miracle of recognizing your true identity, my friend. When you understand that you are not the victim of circumstances, genetics, or bad luck, but rather the creator of your experience through the power of your consciousness, everything becomes possible. Now, you might be wondering, "Dr. Murphy, that sounds wonderful, but how exactly does this work? What's the science behind this seeming miracle?" Let me explain the deeper principles at work here. Your subconscious mind is not just a psychological concept. It's the creative medium through which your conscious declarations become your lived reality. Modern neuroscience confirms what the ancient mystics always knew. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your thoughts, beliefs, and declared identity. When you consistently declare, "I am sick," your brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with illness. It becomes more sensitive to pain signals, more focused on symptoms, more likely to interpret neutral sensations as problems. Your immune system actually becomes suppressed by stress hormones that are released when you identify yourself with sickness. But when you declare, "I am healthy," the opposite happens. Your brain begins to strengthen neural pathways associated with well-being. Your immune system becomes more robust. Your body's natural healing mechanisms are activated. You begin to notice and focus on evidence of health rather than evidence of sickness. This isn't just positive thinking, my friend. This is the fundamental law of consciousness itself. Your identity, what you declare yourself to be, literally rewrites your biology. Your I am declarations are not wishes or hopes or affirmations. They are commands to every system in your body. The same principle applies to every area of your life. When you say I am poor, you activate the neurology of scarcity. Your brain becomes hyper-focused on what you lack, what you can't afford, what's going wrong. Financially, you unconsciously make decisions from a poverty mentality, overlook opportunities, and attract situations that confirm your declaration of lack. When you declare I am wealthy, you activate the neurology of abundance. Your brain begins to notice opportunities, resources, and possibilities that were always there but filtered out by your previous identity. You make decisions from abundance consciousness, take actions aligned with prosperity, and attract circumstances that match your new declaration. This is not magic, though it may seem magical. This is the natural operation of consciousness itself. You are not a powerless victim of random events. You are the creative center of your universe, and your I am declarations are the primary means by which you shape your experience. But here's where most people get confused, and this is crucial for you to understand. They think they need to earn or deserve their good. They think they need to be worthy of blessings. They think they need to convince God to give them what they want. This is all backwards thinking that comes from the fundamental misunderstanding of who and what you are. You see, the statement, I am that I am, reveals that you are not separate from the divine creative power. You are the divine creative power, individualized and expressing through your unique experience of life. You don't need to ask for your good. You need to claim it. You don't need to hope for transformation. You need to declare it. When the ancient text says, I am, that I am, it's revealing the timeless truth that existence itself is an act of self-declaration. God doesn't become God by earning it or deserving it. God simply is, by the power of divine self-recognition. And you, being made in the image and likeness of this creative consciousness, operate by the same principle. This is why Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. He wasn't claiming to be physically older than Abraham. He was revealing his understanding of his true identity as eternal, I am consciousness, beyond time and space, beyond birth and death, beyond limitation and lack. This is why he also said, greater works than these shall you do. He was telling you that the same consciousness that performed miracles through him is the consciousness that you are. The same creative power that healed the sick, multiplied the loaves and fishes, and raised the dead is the power of your own I am consciousness when you truly understand and embody it. And this same I am consciousness is what you are right now, in this very moment. You are the same creative power that spoke the universe into existence, expressing itself as your individual experience of life. You are not a small, separate, powerless being hoping to get God's attention. You are God's attention focused through the lens of your unique human experience. Now, let me share with you one more story that brings all of this together in a beautiful way. Several years ago, a young mother named Maria came to see me. She was overwhelmed, exhausted from trying to balance work, family, and her own dreams. She felt like she was failing at everything and had lost all sense of who she was beyond her roles and responsibilities. Dr. Murphy, she said, tears flowing freely, I don't know who I am anymore. I used to have dreams, ambitions, a sense of purpose. I was going to change the world, make a difference, create something beautiful with my life. Now I just feel like I'm barely surviving each day. She continued, I keep saying I am overwhelmed, I am not enough, I am letting everyone down, I am losing myself. I am just a shell of who I used to be. I love my children, I love my husband, but I feel like I've disappeared in the process of caring for everyone else. How do I find myself again? I looked at this beautiful woman with deep compassion. I could see the exhaustion in her posture, the defeat in her eyes, but I could also see something else, the divine spark that was still there, just covered over by years of self-neglect and negative self-talk. Maria, I said gently, you haven't lost yourself. You've simply forgotten who you are. You are not overwhelmed consciousness. You are consciousness expressing perfectly through a rich, full life. You are not enough. You are the infinite, expressing through the finite. You are not letting anyone down. You are lifting everyone up by your very presence. I continued. The problem is not that your life is too much for you to handle. The problem is that you've been declaring yourself to be inadequate for the life you've been given. You've been using the creative power of I am to create experiences of struggle and insufficiency. I taught her to change her inner declarations. Instead of, I am overwhelmed, she began to declare, I am gracefully managing my beautiful life. Instead of, I am not enough, she affirmed, I am more than enough for every situation I encounter. Instead of, am losing myself, she proclaimed, I am discovering new aspects of my divine nature every day. But I also taught her something deeper. I helped her understand that her roles as mother, wife, and professional were not limitations on her true self. They were expressions of her true self. You are not a human being juggling multiple roles, I explained. You are divine love, expressing itself through the roles of mother, wife, and career woman. You are divine wisdom, guiding and nurturing your family. You are divine creativity, bringing beauty and order to your world. This shift in perspective was transformational for her. Instead of seeing her responsibilities as burdens that were draining her life force, she began to see them as opportunities to express her divine nature. Instead of feeling like she was sacrificing herself for others, she realized she was giving herself to others, and that herself was infinite and inexhaustible. When you know that, you are the unlimited expressing through the apparently limited, I told her, you discover that you have access to infinite energy, infinite wisdom, infinite love, infinite creativity. You are not depleting your personal resources, you are channeling universal resources. The changes in Maria's life were remarkable. Within weeks, she found energy she didn't know she had. She began to wake up excited about her day instead of dreading it. Her relationship with her children deepened because she was present with them instead of distracted by feelings of inadequacy. Her marriage improved dramatically because she stopped being resentful about what she had given up and started being grateful for what she was expressing. Her husband noticed the change immediately. It's like I got my wife back, he told her. But she's even better than before. At work, her performance improved because she was no longer operating from stress and scarcity but from peace and abundance. Opportunities began appearing to help her manage her responsibilities more effectively. She found childcare solutions that had seemed impossible before. Her work schedule became more flexible. Resources and support showed up in ways that felt almost magical. But the most beautiful change was in her sense of purpose. She realized that she hadn't lost her dreams, she was living them. Raising conscious, loving children was changing the world. Creating a harmonious home was making a difference. Bringing her best self to her work was contributing something beautiful to the world. Dr. Murphy, she said, during one of our final sessions, I understand now what I am, that I am really means. I'm not Maria, who has lost herself in motherhood. I'm not Maria, who gave up her dreams for her family. I am divine love, expressing perfectly through the experience of motherhood. I am divine creativity manifesting through the art of homemaking. I am divine wisdom contributing to the world through my work. This is not a smaller life than I dreamed of. This is a fuller expression of who I am than I ever imagined possible. This is the beauty of understanding your true identity, my friend. When you realize that every aspect of your life is an opportunity for the divine to express itself through you, everything becomes sacred. Every moment becomes meaningful. Every challenge becomes a chance to demonstrate your divine nature. See, most people think that spiritual awakening means leaving the world behind, retreating to a monastery or an ashram, spending their days in meditation and prayer. But true spiritual awakening is recognizing that the world is your monastery, that your daily life is your spiritual practice, that every interaction is an opportunity to express your divine nature. When you know that you are I am that I am, you don't need to escape your circumstances to find God. You find God expressing as your circumstances. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions to be spiritual. You bring the perfection of your true nature to whatever conditions you find yourself in. Now, let me give you the practical steps to put this wisdom into immediate use in your daily life. These are not just concepts to think about, they are practices to live by, tools to transform your experience from the inside out. The first practice I want you to begin today is what I call the I am audit. This is a conscious examination of all the ways you complete the sentence, I am, throughout your day. Most people are completely unconscious of how often they make declarations about their identity, and they're shocked when they start paying attention. Every morning when you wake up, before you get out of bed, I want you to ask yourself this question: what am I declaring myself to be today? Pay attention to your automatic thoughts, your habitual self-talk, your unconscious declarations about who and what you are. Most people wake up and immediately begin declaring limitation. The alarm goes off and the first thought is, I am so tired. They look at their schedule and think, I am overwhelmed by everything I have to do today. They check their bank account and declare, I am broke. They look in the mirror and affirm, I am getting old, or I am out of shape, or I am not attractive. Without realizing it, they are programming their subconscious mind for a difficult day, for experiences of lack and limitation, for a reinforcement of everything they don't want to experience. Then they wonder why their life feels so challenging, why they can't seem to get ahead, why they feel stuck in patterns they want to change. Instead, I want you to consciously choose your I am declarations. Begin each day by stating, I am refreshed and energized. I am grateful for this new day and all the opportunities it holds. I am ready for wonderful experiences. I am guided and protected in everything I do. I am expressing my highest good in every situation I encounter. But don't just say these words mechanically. Feel these statements as you declare them. Embody the feeling of being what you claim to be. Your feeling is the power that impresses your declarations upon your subconscious mind. Words without feeling are like seeds planted in barren soil. They have no power to grow into reality. When you say, I am energized, feel energy flowing through your body. When you declare, I am grateful, feel appreciation filling your heart. When you affirm, I am guided, feel the presence of infinite wisdom available to you. This feeling embodiment is what transforms mere positive thinking into creative commanding. Throughout the day, become vigilant about catching yourself whenever you're about to make a negative I am declaration. The moment you notice yourself thinking, I am frustrated, or I am running late, or I am not good at this, or I am unlucky, immediately revise it. Say to yourself, cancel that. I choose a new declaration. Then consciously state, I am peaceful and centered. I am always in the right place at the right time. I am capable and confident. I am blessed and favored in all my ways. This isn't about denying your current experience or pretending everything is perfect when it's not. It's about choosing your future experience by changing the identity from which you operate. Every I am statement is a seed you're planting in the garden of your subconscious mind. What kind of harvest do you want to reap? Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't care about what's currently true, it only cares about what you consistently declare to be true. When you declare, I am peaceful, your subconscious begins to reorganize your internal state, your external circumstances, and your perception of events to match this declaration. In the evening, before you go to sleep, review your day and give thanks for all the ways you successfully embodied your chosen identity. This gratitude reinforces the neural pathways that support your new self-concept and programs your subconscious mind to continue creating experiences that match your declarations while you sleep. Also, use this evening time to forgive yourself for any moments when you fell back into old patterns of negative self-declaration. Remember, you're rewiring years, or even decades of unconscious programming. Be patient with yourself as you learn this new way of being. The second practice I want to give you is what I call the Sacred Seven. These are 7 powerful I am declarations that, when felt deeply and consistently, will transform every area of your life. I want you to work with these 7 statements every single day, not just saying them, but embodying them, living from them, making decisions from them. First, I am divine love expressing perfectly. This is not saying that you sometimes feel love or that you're trying to be more loving. This is declaring that love itself is what you are, expressing through your human experience. Feel this in your heart center. Let the warmth of unconditional love fill your entire being. Know that you are not someone who receives love or gives love. You are love itself, individualized and expressing through your life. When you embody this declaration, your relationships transform. You stop trying to get love from others and start being the love that they can feel and receive. You stop taking things personally because you know that love is your nature, regardless of how others respond to you. You become a source of healing and blessing everywhere you go. Second, I am infinite wisdom, knowing exactly what to do. This is declaring that the same intelligence that grows your hair, beats your heart, and coordinates the dance of galaxies in space is the intelligence that you are. Feel this in your mind center, behind your forehead. Release all anxiety about decisions and choices. Trust that the perfect action, the right words, the ideal response is always available to you. When you live from this declaration, you stop second-guessing yourself. You trust your intuition. You make decisions with confidence because you know that infinite wisdom is not something you access, it's something you are. You become a source of guidance and clarity for others because wisdom flows through you naturally. Third, I am perfect health radiating vitality. This is not hoping for health or working toward health. This is declaring that health is your true nature, that vitality is what you are. Feel this in your entire body. See every cell vibrating with life and energy. Know that your body is constantly renewing itself in perfect order, that healing is happening in you every moment. When you embody this truth, your entire relationship with your body changes. You stop fearing illness and start expecting wellness. You make choices that support your health naturally, without struggle or force. Your energy increases, your immunity strengthens, and your body becomes a faithful expression of the health consciousness you maintain. Fourth, I am abundant prosperity flowing freely. This is recognizing that you are not separate from the source of all supply. You are the source of all supply, expressing through your consciousness and your choices. Feel this in your entire energy field. Know that abundance is not something you need to attract or create, it's something you need to allow and express. When you live from this declaration, scarcity thinking dissolves. You become generous naturally, because you know that giving is just another form of receiving. Opportunities begin to appear everywhere because you're no longer filtering them out through poverty consciousness. Money and resources flow to you and through you with ease. Fifth, I am creative power, expressing beautifully. This is understanding that you are not someone who has creativity. You are creativity itself, individualized and expressing through your unique talents and interests. Feel this in your imagination, in your capacity to envision and create. Know that every desire in your heart is the divine creative impulse, seeking expression through you. When you embody this truth, you stop waiting for inspiration and start being inspiration. You trust your creative impulses. You express yourself authentically without fear of judgment. You become a channel for beauty, innovation, and positive change in the world. Sixth, I am peaceful joy, experiencing life fully. This is recognizing that peace and joy are not emotions you sometimes feel. They are the very essence of what you are when you're not identified with temporary circumstances. Feel this in your deepest being, in the core of who you are beneath all thoughts and experiences. When you live from this declaration, you stop seeking happiness in external things and start being the happiness that others can feel. You remain centered and calm regardless of what's happening around you. You become a source of peace in a chaotic world because peace is radiating from your very being. Seventh, I am that I am, expressing perfection now. This is the master declaration that encompasses all others. This is the recognition of your fundamental identity as the creative consciousness that we call God, expressing perfectly through your human experience. Feel yourself as pure being, unlimited consciousness, divine identity, temporarily focused through the lens of personality. When you truly embody this declaration, you stop trying to become something better and start recognizing the perfection that you already are. You stop seeking outside yourself for validation, fulfillment, or completion because you know that you are already whole. You become a living demonstration of divine possibility. Practice these 7 declarations daily, but remember, the key is not in the repetition of words but in the embodiment of feeling. You want to live from these declarations, not just say them. You want to make decisions from these identities, respond to challenges from these truths, and interact with others from these states of consciousness. The third practice is what I call living from the end. This means assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled before you see any evidence of it in your outer world. This is perhaps the most powerful technique I can teach you, because it aligns you with the fundamental nature of how creation actually works. Most people try to create change by working on their external circumstances. They think they need to find the right job, meet the right person, make the right investment, or take the right action to create the life they want. But this is backwards. External circumstances are always the effect, never the cause. The cause is always consciousness, always your inner state, always what you declare yourself to be. When you live from the end, you begin with consciousness. You begin by assuming the identity of the person who already has what you desire. You feel yourself into that reality before there's any external evidence for it. If you desire greater health, don't wait until your body shows improvement to feel healthy. Feel healthy now, today, this moment. Walk as a healthy person walks. Breathe as a healthy person breathes. Eat as a healthy person eats. Think as a healthy person thinks. Make decisions from health consciousness, not sickness consciousness. Declare, I am perfectly healthy, and embody that identity, right now, regardless of what your current symptoms might be telling you. I know this can feel challenging at first. Your rational mind will protest that you're lying to yourself, that you're denying reality. But here's what I want you to understand. Your current physical condition is not reality, it's the outpicturing of your past mental and emotional patterns. When you change your consciousness, you change the instructions you're giving to your body, and your body will begin to conform to your new self-concept. If you desire financial abundance, don't wait until your bank account grows to feel wealthy. Feel wealthy now. Be generous now, within your current means. Make decisions from abundance consciousness, not lack consciousness. Declare, I am prosperous and successful, and live from that truth today. This doesn't mean being foolish with money, or spending what you don't have. It means changing the internal stance from which you approach money. Instead of, I can't afford that, say, that's not where I choose to invest my resources right now. Instead of money is tight, declare, I am learning to steward my abundance wisely. Instead of I'm broke, affirm I am building my prosperity foundation. When you change your relationship with money from the inside, your external financial circumstances begin to shift. You start noticing opportunities you missed before. You make better financial decisions. You attract resources and support. You begin to think and act like a wealthy person, and wealthy people create wealth. If you desire loving relationships, don't wait for others to love you to feel loved. Feel loved now. Treat yourself with love and respect. See the love that already surrounds you, in nature, in acts of kindness from strangers, in the care of family and friends. Declare, I am loved and cherished, and radiate that love to everyone you meet. When you embody the feeling of being loved, you become magnetic to loving relationships. You stop trying to get love and start being love. You stop taking rejection personally because your sense of being loved doesn't depend on any particular person's response to you. You attract people who can recognize and appreciate the love that you are. This is the secret of I am that I am. You don't become what you want, you recognize what you already are. You don't attract your good, you express your good. You don't manifest from emptiness. You manifest from fullness. Your desires are not separate from you, trying to find their way to you from some distant place. Your desires are the divine creative impulse within you, seeking expression through your life experience. When you align your I am declarations with your deepest desires, you allow what already is to become visible in your world. Let me share with you another profound story that illustrates this principle beautifully. A man named David came to see me several years ago. He was in his 40s, divorced, struggling financially, and deeply depressed. He felt like his life had fallen apart and he didn't know how to put it back together. "Dr. Murphy," he said, "I used to be successful. I had a thriving business, a beautiful marriage, a house I was proud of. But over the past few years, everything has crumbled. My business failed, my wife left me, I lost the house. Now I'm living in a tiny apartment, working a job I hate just to pay the bills. I keep saying I am a failure, I am unlucky, I am cursed, I am never going to recover from this. I feel like I'm in a hole that just keeps getting deeper." I could see the pain in his eyes, but I could also see something else. A man who had forgotten his true identity and power. "David," I said, "your external circumstances are simply reflecting your inner declarations. You've been using the creative power of I am to reinforce everything you don't want to experience." I taught him to understand that his business failure, his divorce, and his financial struggles were not evidence of his unworthiness or bad luck. They were the natural outworking of years of stress, fear-based thinking, and unconscious negative declarations about himself and his life. "Every morning when you wake up declaring I am a failure," I explained, "you're programming your subconscious mind to find evidence for failure in your day. When you say I am unlucky, you're activating the mental and emotional patterns that create unlucky experiences. When you affirm I am never going to recover, you're blocking the very recovery you desire." I worked with David to completely restructure his self-concept. Instead of "I am a failure," he began to declare, "I am learning and growing stronger from every experience." Instead of "I am unlucky," he affirmed, "I am blessed and guided in all my ways." Instead of "I am never going to recover," he proclaimed, "I am rising to a new level of success and happiness." But I also taught him something deeper about the nature of external circumstances. "David," I said, "you think you lost your business, your marriage, and your house. But from a higher perspective, these things were removed from your life because they were no longer in alignment with who you are becoming. Sometimes what looks like loss is actually liberation." This was a profound shift in perspective for him. Instead of seeing himself as a victim of circumstances, he began to see himself as a spiritual being, having a human experience. And sometimes that experience includes periods of apparent loss that are actually periods of transformation and redirection. "What if," I suggested, "your business needed to fail so that you could discover a new passion, a new way of serving, a new level of creativity? What if your marriage needed to end so that you could heal old patterns and become available for a relationship that truly reflects your worth? What if losing your house was clearing the way for a home that better expresses who you're becoming?" As David began to embody these new declarations and perspectives, remarkable changes began to occur. First, his energy shifted. He started waking up with hope instead of dread. He began to see possibilities where before he had seen only problems. Within a few months, he met someone who offered him a business partnership in a field he had always been interested in but never pursued. The new venture aligned perfectly with his talents and passions, in a way his previous business never had. Around the same time, he met a woman who appreciated him for who he truly was, not for what he could provide or achieve. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine compatibility, everything his previous marriage had lacked. His financial situation improved steadily as his new business grew. But more importantly, his relationship with money changed. He stopped seeing money as security and started seeing it as a tool for service and expression. He became generous with his resources, which only seemed to increase the flow of abundance in his life. "Dr. Murphy," he said during one of our final sessions, "I realize now that I never really lost anything. I was just shedding old versions of myself that no longer served my growth. Everything that seemed like failure was actually preparation for a life that's more authentic, more fulfilling, and more aligned with who I really am. He continued, I understand now what I am that I am means in practical terms. I'm not David who failed and lost everything. I'm divine consciousness expressing as David. And divine consciousness is constantly creating new and better experiences. Every ending is actually a beginning. Every loss is actually a redirection towards something better. This is the power of understanding your true identity in the midst of apparent challenges, my friend. When you know that you are the creative consciousness that we call God, expressing through your human experience, you can never really lose anything, because you can never lose yourself. You are the source of your good, not the recipient of your good. Now, let me give you some additional practices that will deepen your understanding and embodiment of this truth. These are advanced techniques that will accelerate your transformation and help you maintain your new identity, even when circumstances seem to challenge it. The fourth practice I want to teach you is what I call conscious creation through assumption. This involves deliberately assuming the feeling of your desired identity until it becomes natural and automatic. Choose one area of your life where you desire change: your health, your relationships, your career, your finances. Instead of focusing on what you want to change, focus on who you need to be to naturally experience what you desire. If you want better health, don't just declare, I am healthy. Go deeper. Assume the complete identity of a person who radiates vitality. How does such a person wake up in the morning? What thoughts do they think? How do they treat their body? What foods do they choose? How do they move through their day? What is their relationship with stress and challenges? Spend time each day imagining yourself as this person. See through their eyes, feel through their body, think through their mind. Make this identity so real to you that it begins to feel more natural than your old identity. Then, throughout your day, make choices from this new identity. When faced with food choices, ask yourself, what would a vibrantly healthy person choose? When dealing with stress, ask, how would someone who embodies perfect health respond to this situation? When planning your evening, wonder, what would a person of radiant vitality do with this time? This is not pretending or acting. This is recognizing and embodying the truth of who you are at your deepest level. Health is your natural state. Vitality is your birthright. You are not trying to become someone else. You are remembering who you really are. The same principle applies to every area of life. If you desire greater prosperity, assume the complete identity of someone who lives in abundant flow. How does such a person think about money? How do they make financial decisions? What is their relationship with giving and receiving? How do they respond to opportunities? What feelings do they embody around resources and security? Live from this identity consistently, and your external circumstances will begin to match your internal assumption. This is not about changing your circumstances to feel abundant. This is about feeling abundant to change your circumstances. The fifth practice is what I call the revision technique. This is a powerful method for healing the past and preventing negative patterns from repeating in your future. Every evening before sleep, review your day and identify any moments when you declared yourself to be something you don't want to be, or when you experienced something that contradicted your desired identity. Instead of feeling guilty or frustrated about these moments, simply revise them in your imagination. Replay the scene, but this time see yourself responding from your true identity. If you declared, I am overwhelmed during a stressful moment, revise it. See yourself in that same situation declaring, I am peaceful and capable, and feeling the truth of that statement. If someone was unkind to you and you felt hurt or angry, revise your response. See yourself remaining centered in the knowledge of who you are, responding with compassion and wisdom, maintaining your inner peace regardless of their behavior. If you made a financial mistake and declared, I am stupid with money, revise it. See yourself making a wise choice. See yourself learning from the experience without self-condemnation. See yourself affirming, I am wise and prosperous. This revision is not about denying what happened or living in fantasy. It's about reprogramming your subconscious mind with the patterns you want to repeat instead of the patterns you want to avoid. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between an actual experience and a vividly imagined one. When you revise your day before sleep, you're literally rewriting the neural pathways that will influence tomorrow's experiences. The sixth practice is what I call identity anchoring. This involves creating physical, emotional, and mental anchors that help you quickly return to your chosen identity when you notice yourself slipping into old patterns. Choose a physical gesture that represents your true identity, perhaps placing your hand on your heart and taking a deep breath, or standing tall with your shoulders back and your chin up. Practice this gesture while declaring your chosen identity and feeling the truth of who you are. Do this regularly when you're already feeling aligned and powerful. Then, when you notice yourself starting to slip into negative self-talk or limiting beliefs, use this physical gesture to instantly reconnect with your true identity. The gesture becomes an anchor that pulls you back to your center, back to the truth of who you are. Create emotional anchors as well. Choose a memory or imagined experience where you felt completely aligned with your highest self. Maybe it was a moment of deep love, profound peace, creative inspiration, or spiritual connection. Practice returning to this feeling state regularly, immersing yourself in the emotions and sensations of being your best self. When challenges arise, and you notice yourself starting to identify with problems or limitations, use this emotional anchor to return to your empowered state. Remember, you are not the temporary experiences you're having. You are the consciousness experiencing them. Create mental anchors too. Choose phrases, prayers, or affirmations that instantly remind you of your true nature. Some examples might be, I am that I am. I am divine consciousness expressing perfectly. I am love, wisdom, and power in action. Or, I am the creator of my experience. Repeat these phrases regularly when you're feeling good, so they become associated with your empowered state. Then, when you need to return to your center quickly, these mental anchors will help shift your consciousness immediately. The seventh practice is what I call living as love. This is perhaps the most powerful practice of all, because love is the fundamental nature of the creative consciousness that you are. Every morning, before you begin your day, spend a few minutes connecting with the love that you are, not the emotion of love, but love as the essence of your being. Feel yourself as love expressing through human form. Remember that every person you encounter today is also love expressing through human form, even when they've forgotten this truth about themselves. Throughout your day, approach every situation, every person, every challenge from this awareness. When someone is difficult, see them as love that has forgotten itself and needs to be reminded. When you face obstacles, see them as opportunities for love, to express creativity and wisdom. When you're tempted to judge, criticize, or condemn, remember that you are love itself, and love always seeks to understand, heal, and bless. This doesn't mean being passive or allowing others to mistreat you. Love is also strength, wisdom, and appropriate boundaries. But it means approaching everything from the fundamental recognition that love is what you are, love is what others are, and love is the creative force seeking to express more love through every situation. When you live as love, miracles become natural. Healing happens spontaneously. Relationships transform. Abundance flows easily. Problems resolve gracefully. This is because you're no longer living as a separate individual trying to get your needs met. You're living as the universal creative force expressing its nature through your unique form. Now, let me address some of the common challenges people face when they begin to apply these principles. The first challenge is doubt. When you start declaring yourself to be something that doesn't match your current external circumstances, your rational mind will rebel. It will insist that you're lying to yourself, that you're being unrealistic, that this isn't how the world works. When doubt arises, remember this: your current circumstances are not the truth about you, they are the outpicturing of your past thoughts, beliefs, and declarations. What you see around you right now is the result of who you used to think you were, not who you truly are or who you're choosing to become. Doubt is just old programming trying to maintain itself. It's the ego's way of keeping you stuck in familiar patterns, even when those patterns are painful. Don't argue with doubt, simply acknowledge it, and choose your truth anyway. Say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm choosing to align with a higher truth about myself." The second challenge is impatience. When you begin to change your inner declarations, you want to see results immediately. When the external changes don't happen as quickly as you'd like, you may be tempted to give up and return to old patterns. Remember that consciousness is the cause, and circumstances are the effect, but there's often a time lag between cause and effect. Just as it takes time for a seed to grow into a tree, it takes time for your new self-concept to fully manifest in your external experience. Be patient with the process, but persistent with the practice. Continue to live from your chosen identity, even before you see evidence of it. This is what faith really means. Not believing in something despite evidence to the contrary, but believing in something because you know it to be true at the deepest level, regardless of current appearances. The third challenge is consistency. It's easy to maintain positive declarations when you're feeling good, but when life gets challenging, when problems arise, when others disappoint you, it's tempting to slip back into old patterns of negative self-talk. This is precisely when your practice becomes most important. Anyone can declare themselves to be peaceful when everything is going well. The test of your understanding comes when circumstances seem chaotic, and you choose to remain centered in the truth of who you are. Develop the discipline to catch yourself quickly when you notice negative declarations starting to form. The sooner you catch them, the easier it is to revise them. Make it a game. See how quickly you can notice when you're about to declare something limiting about yourself, and choose a new declaration instead. The fourth challenge is the opinions of others. When you begin to embody a new identity, people around you may resist the change. They've become comfortable with the old version of you, and your transformation challenges their own limitations and fears. Some people may criticize your new positive attitude as unrealistic or fake. Others may try to remind you of your past failures or limitations. Some may even sabotage your efforts because your growth makes them uncomfortable about their own stagnation. Remember that other people's opinions about you are just their opinions. They have no power over your reality unless you give them that power. You are not responsible for making others comfortable with your growth. You are responsible for honoring the truth of who you are, regardless of how others respond. Surround yourself with people who support your highest good. If necessary, limit your time with those who consistently try to pull you back into old patterns. Your transformation is too important to sacrifice for the comfort of others. The fifth challenge is perfectionism. When you begin this work, you may expect yourself to master it immediately. When you catch yourself making negative declarations or slipping into old patterns, you may judge yourself harshly and think you're failing. Remember that this is a practice, not a perfection. You're rewiring neural pathways that have been developing for years or decades. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you learn. Every time you catch yourself and make a new choice, you're strengthening the new pathways. Every time you choose love over fear, truth over limitation, you're making progress. Celebrate small victories. Notice when you handle a situation differently than you would have in the past. Acknowledge when you catch negative self-talk more quickly than before. Appreciate every moment when you successfully embody your chosen identity. This positive reinforcement will accelerate your transformation. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with some specific daily practices that will help you integrate everything I've shared with you. First, create a morning ritual that sets the tone for your entire day. Before you get out of bed, spend 5 minutes connecting with your true identity. Declare your chosen "I am" statements with feeling. Visualize yourself moving through your day from your empowered state. Set an intention to remember who you are, regardless of what circumstances you encounter. During your morning routine, showering, eating breakfast, getting dressed, continue to declare your identity. See these simple activities as opportunities to embody who you're choosing to be. How does a person of perfect health take care of their body? How does someone of abundant prosperity approach their day? How does a being of divine love interact with their family? Throughout your day, set reminders to check in with your identity. You might set alarms on your phone with messages like, "Who am I being right now?" or "I am that I am." Use these moments to quickly assess whether you're operating from your chosen identity or from old patterns, and make adjustments as needed. Create an evening ritual that consolidates your growth. Review your day with gratitude for every moment when you successfully embodied your true nature. Revise any moments when you slipped into old patterns. End your day by affirming your chosen identity and setting the intention to deepen this truth while you sleep. Keep a journal of your transformation. Write down your daily declarations, record evidence of positive changes, note insights and breakthroughs. This written record will become a powerful reminder of your progress when doubt tries to convince you that nothing is changing. Study inspiring materials that reinforce these principles. Read books, listen to talks, watch videos that remind you of your divine nature and your creative power. Surround yourself with input that supports your highest understanding of yourself. Find or create a community of like-minded people who are also committed to conscious living. Share your insights, support each other's growth, celebrate each other's victories. Having others who understand and support your journey makes the path much easier and more joyful. Practice random acts of kindness and service. When you know that you are divine love expressing in human form, you naturally want to bless others. These acts of kindness not only help others, but also reinforce your understanding of your true nature. Most importantly, remember that this is not just a technique or a philosophy. This is the truth about who you are. You are not trying to become something you're not. You are remembering something you've always been but perhaps forgotten. You are not creating a new identity. You are uncovering your true identity. The statement, "I am that I am," is not just something God said to Moses thousands of years ago. It is the eternal truth about the nature of consciousness itself, and consciousness is what you are. Every time you say, "I am," you are speaking the creative word of God. Every time you declare your identity, you are exercising the same power that spoke the universe into existence. You are not separate from this power. You are not a victim of this power. You are this power, individualized and expressing through your unique human experience. When you truly understand this, when you truly embody this, when you truly live from this truth, there is nothing you cannot be, do, or have. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, your career, your creativity, your joy, your peace, all of these are expressions of the one creative consciousness that you are. They are not things you need to get from outside yourself. They are things you need to express from inside yourself. This is the forbidden meaning they never taught you, because if you truly understood your divine nature and creative power, you would no longer be dependent on external institutions for your good. You would know that the kingdom of heaven is within you, that the source of all supply is your own consciousness, that the healer you've been seeking is the consciousness that you are. But this knowledge was never really hidden from you. It was always available to anyone willing to look beyond the surface teachings and discover the deeper truth. The mystics knew it. The sages taught it. The enlightened ones lived it. And now you know it too. My dear friend, remember this truth above all others. You are not seeking God. You are God individualized. You are not separate from your good. You are the good you seek, expressing itself through you. You are not becoming something better. You are recognizing the perfection that you already are. The moment you truly understand, "I am that I am," your entire world begins to reorganize itself to match this recognition. Your body begins to express the health that is your true nature. Your relationships begin to reflect the love that you are. Your work becomes an expression of the creativity that flows through you. Your finances begin to demonstrate the abundance that is your birthright. This is not a promise for the future. This is a possibility for right now. This is not something you need to earn or deserve. This is something you need to recognize and embody. This is not about changing yourself. This is about remembering yourself. Right now, in this very moment, declare with me, "I am that I am." I am the divine creative power, expressing perfection, abundance, love, and joy through my life. I am not becoming, I already am. I am not seeking, I am finding. I am not hoping, I am knowing. I am not separate from my good, I am my good expressing perfectly. I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I am not small, limited, or powerless. I am infinite consciousness expressing through this beautiful human form. I am that I am, and it is wonderful. Feel these words in every cell of your body. Let them resonate in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. Allow them to reprogram your subconscious mind, to restructure your neural pathways, to reorganize your entire understanding of who and what you are. This is not just a nice affirmation. This is the fundamental truth of your being. This is who you have always been, who you are now, and who you will always be. You are the eternal I Am consciousness, temporarily focused through the lens of your individual personality, but never separate from the infinite source of all that island. Live from this truth. Make decisions from this truth. Respond to challenges from this truth. Treat others from this truth. Create your life from this truth. This is your divine inheritance, your spiritual birthright, your eternal nature. If these words have stirred something deep within you, if you feel the truth of your divine nature awakening, if you sense the power of your creative consciousness beginning to stir, do me this kindness. Subscribe to this channel for more transformational wisdom that will support your journey of awakening. Give this video a thumbs up if it has resonated with your soul and helped you remember who you truly are. And please, share in the comments below your own I Am declaration. Tell me who you are choosing to be from this moment forward. What divine quality are you ready to embody? What limitation are you ready to transcend? What truth about yourself are you ready to declare and live? I read every comment, and your transformation inspires me to continue sharing these eternal truths. Your awakening is my joy. Your recognition of your divine nature is my reward. Your embodiment of this truth is my greatest satisfaction. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. You are part of a global awakening, a collective remembering of our true divine nature. Every person who awakens to their I Am consciousness makes it easier for others to remember. Your transformation blesses not only your own life but the entire world. Until we meet again, carry this truth with you. You are not separate from the divine. You are the divine, expressing perfectly as you. You are not seeking your good, you are being your good. You are not hoping for a better life. You are creating a better life through the power of your awakened consciousness. I am that I am, and so are you. This is the forbidden meaning they never taught you, but it was never really forbidden. It was always available to those with eyes to see and hearts to understand. Today, you have seen. Today, you have understood. Today, you have remembered who you really are. Now, go forth and live this truth. Express this consciousness. Be this love. Share this wisdom. You are the light of the world, and it's time to let your light shine. You are that you are, and it is wonderful. But before I release you to begin this magnificent journey of conscious living, let me share with you some of the deeper mysteries that I have discovered in my decades of study and practice. These are the advanced secrets that will accelerate your transformation and help you understand the profound implications of truly embodying I Am that I am. The first mystery is what I call the law of mental equivalence. This law states that for every external condition in your life, there is a corresponding mental equivalent, a pattern of thought, feeling, and belief that maintains that condition. When you change the mental equivalent, the external condition must change to match it. Most people try to change their circumstances by working on the external level. They try to fix their relationships by changing their partner's behavior. They try to improve their finances by working harder or finding better opportunities. They try to heal their bodies by taking medications or treatments. While these external approaches may provide temporary relief, they rarely create lasting change because they don't address the mental equivalent that created the condition in the first place. When you understand that you are, I am that I am, pure creative consciousness, You realize that every condition in your life is simply consciousness expressing itself through form. Your health is consciousness expressing as your body. Your wealth is consciousness expressing as your financial experience. Your relationships are consciousness expressing as your interactions with others. To create lasting change, you must work at the level of consciousness itself. You must identify and transform the mental equivalent that is maintaining the unwanted condition. This is why changing your I am declarations is so powerful. You are literally reprogramming the mental equivalent that creates your experience. Let me illustrate this with a profound case that came to my attention. A woman named Elizabeth had been struggling with chronic depression for over 20 years. She had tried every treatment available: medications, therapy, alternative healing, spiritual practices. Some approaches would provide temporary relief, but the depression always returned. When Elizabeth came to see me, I helped her discover the mental equivalent that was maintaining her depression. Through our conversations, we uncovered that she had been unconsciously declaring herself to be, I am unworthy of happiness. I am destined to suffer. I am responsible for everyone else's pain. And I am too sensitive for this harsh world. These declarations had become so automatic, so deeply embedded in her consciousness, that she wasn't even aware she was making them. But they were running like a continuous program in her subconscious mind, creating the neurochemical patterns, the thought patterns, and the behavioral patterns that manifested as depression. I taught Elizabeth to identify and transform these unconscious I am declarations. Instead of I am unworthy of happiness, she began to declare, I am inherently worthy of joy and peace. Instead of I am destined to suffer, she affirmed, I am destined to experience love and fulfillment. Instead of I am responsible for everyone else's pain, she proclaimed, I am responsible for my own well-being and happiness. But here's what made the difference. I taught her to understand that these new declarations weren't positive thinking or wishful thinking. They were recognitions of truth. Elizabeth, I explained, depression is not your nature. Suffering is not your destiny. Unworthiness is not your reality. These are learned patterns that have no basis in the truth of what you are. I helped her understand that as I am consciousness, her essential nature is joy, peace, love, and creative expression. Depression was simply the result of temporarily forgetting this truth and identifying with patterns that contradicted her divine nature. The transformation was remarkable, but not immediate. For the first few weeks, Elizabeth's mind rebelled against the new declarations. Her depression actually seemed to intensify as her psyche resisted the change. This is what I call the last stand of the ego. The old patterns fight hardest just before they dissolve. I prepared Elizabeth for this by explaining that consciousness, like water, seeks its own level. When you begin to declare a new identity, everything that is not in alignment with that identity will come up to be cleared. This temporary intensification is actually a sign that the transformation is working. Think of it like cleaning out a closet that has been cluttered for years. I told her, before it becomes organized and beautiful, it gets messier as you pull everything out to sort through it. Your consciousness is doing the same thing, bringing up old patterns so they can be released and replaced with new ones. Elizabeth persisted with her new declarations, and gradually, the mental equivalent of depression began to dissolve. She noticed that she was having moments of genuine happiness for the first time in years. Her energy began to return. Her relationships improved as she stopped trying to rescue everyone and started radiating the joy that was her true nature. Most remarkably, her entire life purpose shifted. Before, she had been focused on healing her depression. After, she became passionate about helping other people discover their own divine nature and overcome their limitations. She went back to school, became a counselor, and now helps hundreds of people each year remember who they truly are. Dr. Murphy, she told me during our final session, I realize now that my depression was never really about chemical imbalances or genetic predispositions or traumatic experiences. Those were just the forms that my forgetfulness took. Depression was the experience of forgetting that I am divine consciousness, of believing that I was separate from love, joy, and peace. Once I remembered my true identity, depression became impossible because it contradicted who I really am. This brings me to the second mystery, the law of assumption. This law states that whatever you assume to be true about yourself will eventually become true in your experience, regardless of your current circumstances or past history. Most people think they need evidence before they can believe something. They wait for their health to improve before they assume they are healthy. They wait for their bank account to grow before they assume they are prosperous. They wait for the perfect relationship to appear before they assume they are loved. But when you understand that you are, I am that I am, consciousness, you realize that you don't need evidence to assume something. Your assumption creates the evidence. Assumption is not hoping, or wishing, or positive thinking. Assumption is the creative act by which consciousness manifests its desires into form. This is why Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." He wasn't talking about future receiving. He was talking about present assumption. When you assume you have already received what you desire, you align your consciousness with that reality, and your external world must conform to your assumption. Let me share with you one of the most extraordinary examples of this principle that I have ever witnessed. A man named Thomas came to see me who had been blind since birth. He was now in his 30s, and had been told by every doctor he consulted that his blindness was permanent and irreversible. "Dr. Murphy," he said, "I've accepted my blindness, and in many ways, I've built a good life around it. But something inside me keeps insisting that sight is possible for me. I've had dreams where I could see. I've had moments where I could swear I perceived light and color. Am I deluding myself, or is there something to this inner knowing?" I was deeply moved by Thomas's question, because I could sense that his inner knowing was not delusion but recognition. "Thomas," I said, "tell me how you complete the sentence 'I am' when you think about your sight." "I am blind," he said immediately. "I am visually impaired. I am dependent on others for many things. I am limited by my condition. And yet," I continued, "you mentioned dreams, where you could see, and moments of perceiving light. In those experiences, how would you complete the sentence 'I am'?" His face lit up as he considered this. "In those moments," he said slowly, I am able to see. I am connected to the visual world. I am complete and whole." I worked with Thomas to understand that these moments of inner sight were not fantasies but glimpses of his true nature. "Thomas," I explained, "consciousness itself is sight. Consciousness is the light by which all things are seen. You are not a blind person hoping to see. You are consciousness itself, temporarily experiencing blindness but never actually separated from the light of awareness." I taught him to assume the identity of someone who could see, not as wishful thinking but as recognition of truth. Every morning, I instructed, declare, "I am perfect sight." Feel yourself as consciousness that sees clearly. Throughout your day, assume that you are perceiving everything around you through the inner sight of consciousness. This was challenging for Thomas because his rational mind insisted that his assumption was contradicted by obvious evidence. But I helped him understand that physical sight is just one form of seeing, and that consciousness itself is the ultimate form of sight. "You already see in ways that sighted people cannot," I pointed out. "You see people's characters more clearly because you're not distracted by physical appearances. You see the essence of situations because you're not caught up in visual details. You see with the heart in ways that those who rely only on physical sight often miss." I taught Thomas to expand his understanding of sight to include all the ways consciousness perceives and knows. I helped him realize that assuming perfect sight didn't mean assuming physical vision. It meant assuming the perfect sight of consciousness itself, which might manifest as physical vision, or might manifest as other forms of extraordinary perception. The results were remarkable. Within weeks, Thomas began to experience unprecedented levels of spatial awareness. He could sense objects and navigate spaces with an accuracy that amazed everyone around him. He began to perceive colors, as distinct energetic sensations. He developed what he called feeling sight, the ability to sense the visual appearance of people and places through intuitive knowing. But the most extraordinary development came after about 6 months of consistent practice. Thomas began to experience what he described as consciousness sight, moments where he could perceive his environment not through physical eyes but through pure awareness. He could describe rooms, people, and scenes with perfect accuracy even though his physical eyes remained unchanged. Dr. Murphy, he told me, I understand now that I was never really blind. I was consciousness having an experience of physical blindness, but consciousness itself can never be blind. When I assumed perfect sight, I wasn't trying to fix my eyes, I was remembering my true nature as the light of awareness itself. Thomas's story illustrates the third mystery, the nature of miracles. Most people think miracles are violations of natural law, supernatural interventions that happen rarely and unpredictably. But when you understand I am consciousness, you realize that miracles are simply the natural result of consciousness remembering its true nature and power. Every so-called miracle in history has been the result of someone accessing their I am consciousness so completely that the limitations of the physical world became secondary to the creative power of consciousness itself. Jesus walked on water, not because he violated the law of gravity, but because his consciousness of his divine nature was so complete that physical laws became malleable to his spiritual realization. You have the same consciousness, the same creative power, the same capacity to transcend apparent limitations. The only difference is the degree to which you recognize and embody your true identity as I am that I am. This brings me to the fourth mystery, the law of dominant mental impression. This law states that your subconscious mind will always outpicture the mental impression that is most dominant in your consciousness, regardless of what you consciously wish or hope for. Many people work with affirmations, visualizations, and positive thinking, but they don't get the results they expect because their dominant mental impression remains focused on limitation, lack, or problems. They might say, I am healthy, for 5 minutes in the morning, but spend the rest of the day worrying about symptoms, researching diseases online, and declaring themselves to be sick or at risk. The conscious affirmation has no power against the dominant unconscious impression. This is why it's crucial, not just to declare your desired identity occasionally, but to live from it consistently until it becomes your dominant mental impression. Let me share with you the story of a businessman named Richard who came to understand this principle in a profound way. Richard owned a small company that had been struggling financially for several years. He had tried various business strategies, marketing approaches, and financial solutions, but nothing seemed to work. When Richard came to see me, he was declaring, I am successful in his morning affirmations, but spending his days declaring, I am failing, I am struggling, I am going to lose everything, and I am not cut out for business. His conscious affirmations were being overwhelmed by his dominant mental impression of failure, struggle. Richard, I explained, success is not something you need to create. It's something you need to embody. You are not a failing businessman trying to become successful. You are success, consciousness, expressing through the form of a business. When you embody success consciousness, your business becomes a vehicle for that consciousness to express itself. I worked with Richard to identify all the ways he was unconsciously declaring limitation throughout his day. He was shocked to discover how consistently he was affirming struggle, lack, and failure through his thoughts, words, and actions. We developed a comprehensive practice for Richard to embody success consciousness. Instead of just saying, I am successful in the morning, he began to think, speak, and act as a successful person throughout his entire day. When faced with business challenges, instead of declaring, this is impossible, or I don't know what to do, he began to affirm, I am creative and resourceful, and I always find solutions. When meeting with clients, instead of thinking, I hope they don't reject me, he embodied, I am valuable and my services are needed. When dealing with finances, instead of focusing on what was lacking, he began to operate from abundance consciousness. He made decisions as a successful person would make them, spoke to employees and clients as a successful leader would speak, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who knew their worth. The transformation was rapid and remarkable. Within 3 months, Richard's business began to turn around. New clients appeared almost magically. Long-delayed payments came through unexpectedly. Opportunities for expansion presented themselves. His employees responded to his new energy with increased motivation and creativity. But the most significant change was in Richard himself. He realized that he had always been success consciousness. He had just been expressing it through patterns of struggle and limitation. When he aligned his dominant mental impression with his true nature as creative, abundant, successful consciousness, his business became a natural expression of that success. "Dr. Murphy," he said, "I understand now that my business was never really failing. It was perfectly reflecting my consciousness of failure. When I changed my consciousness, my business had no choice but to change too. I wasn't fixing my business. I was remembering who I really am." This brings me to the fifth mystery, the power of identity programming. Most people think they are victims of their conditioning, their childhood experiences, their cultural programming, their genetic inheritance. But when you understand, I am that I am consciousness, you realize that you can consciously reprogram your identity at any moment. Your current personality, your habitual patterns, your automatic responses, all of these are simply programs running in your consciousness. They feel real and permanent because you've been running them for so long, but they are not your true nature. They are learned patterns that can be unlearned and replaced with new patterns that better reflect who you choose to be. Let me tell you about a woman named Grace who exemplified this principle beautifully. Grace came from a family where depression, anxiety, and financial struggle were generational patterns. Her grandmother had been depressed, her mother had been anxious and financially stressed, and Grace found herself experiencing the same patterns. "Dr. Murphy," she said, "it feels like I'm doomed to repeat my family's patterns. I've tried therapy, I've tried medication, I've tried various self-help approaches, but I always seem to fall back into depression, anxiety, and money problems. It's like these patterns are in my DNA." I helped Grace understand that what she was experiencing was not genetic destiny, but learned identity programming. "Grace," I explained, "you learn to be depressed, anxious, and financially stressed in the same way you learn to speak English. These are not your nature, they are programs you absorbed from your environment." I taught Grace that as I am consciousness, she had the power to reprogram her identity completely. She was not bound by her family history, her past experiences, or any external conditioning. She was pure creative consciousness, with the ability to choose who she wanted to be in each moment. We worked together to identify the specific identity programs that were creating her unwanted experiences. Grace discovered that she had unconsciously absorbed beliefs like, "I am destined to suffer like my mother," "I am genetically predisposed to depression," "I am not capable of financial success," and "I am trapped by my family patterns." These were not conscious beliefs, they were running as background programs in her subconscious mind, creating her emotional states, her thought patterns, and her behavioral choices. Once Grace became aware of these programs, she could begin to reprogram them. I taught Grace a technique I call identity rewriting. Every morning, she would consciously choose to install new identity programs. Instead of running the old program, "I am destined to suffer," she would install the new program, "I am destined to thrive and flourish." Instead of, "I am genetically predisposed to depression," she would program, "I am genetically blessed with joy and resilience." But here's the crucial part. Grace didn't just say these new programs, she embodied them. She began to think thoughts that someone with these new programs would think, feel feelings that someone with this new identity would feel, and take actions that someone with this new self-concept would take. When depression tried to emerge, instead of identifying with it and saying, "I am depressed," Grace would recognize it as an old program trying to run, and would consciously choose to run her new program instead. She would declare, "I am joy," expressing through temporary challenges, and embody the feeling of someone whose essential nature is joy. The results were extraordinary. Within 6 months, Grace had completely transformed her emotional landscape. The depression that had plagued her family for generations simply could not maintain itself in the face of her new identity programming. Her anxiety dissolved as she embodied programs of confidence and trust. Her financial situation improved as she began operating from abundance consciousness rather than scarcity programming. Most remarkably, Grace's transformation began to affect her entire family. Her mother noticed Grace's change and became curious about the principles she was using. Her siblings began to see new possibilities for their own lives. Even her grandmother, now in her 80s, began to experience more joy and peace than she had felt in decades. Dr. Murphy. Grace told me, I realize now that I was never really bound by my family patterns. I was consciousness temporarily running family programs, but consciousness itself is unlimited. When I chose to reprogram my identity, I didn't just change my own life, I changed my family's entire trajectory. I broke the chain of inherited limitation and established a new pattern of inherited blessing. This leads me to the sixth mystery, the principle of mental causation. This principle states that every condition, circumstance, and experience in your life has its origin in consciousness. Nothing happens to you, everything happens through you, as an expression of your dominant mental and emotional patterns. This is perhaps the most challenging principle for people to accept, because it seems to suggest that you are responsible for everything that happens in your life, including things that seem clearly beyond your control. But understanding this principle correctly is crucial for fully embodying I am that I am consciousness. When I say that everything happens through you, I don't mean that you consciously choose every experience. Much of what you experience is the result of unconscious mental patterns, inherited programming, and collective consciousness influences that you may not be aware of. But I do mean that your consciousness is the medium through which all experiences manifest in your life. By taking responsibility for your consciousness, for your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and identity declarations, you take back your power to create the experiences you truly desire. Let me illustrate this with the story of a man named James, who came to understand this principle through a very challenging experience. James was a kind, generous person who had always tried to help others and live according to spiritual principles. But his life seemed to be filled with one crisis after another: financial emergencies, health problems, relationship conflicts, work difficulties. Dr. Murphy, he said with frustration, I don't understand why these things keep happening to me. I try to be a good person. I help others whenever I can. I don't hurt anyone intentionally. But my life feels like one disaster after another. It seems like the universe is against me. I could see that James was caught in the victim consciousness that so many good-hearted people fall into. He couldn't understand why his external goodness wasn't creating better external circumstances. James, I said gently, I can see that you are indeed a good person with a sincere heart. But tell me, when these crises occur, how do you complete the sentence, I am? As James thought about this, his face began to change. When the financial problems happen, I think I am always struggling with money. When the health issues arise, I declare I am prone to illness. When conflicts occur, I say I am unlucky in relationships. When work problems emerge, I think I am never going to succeed. I helped James understand that while he was consciously trying to be good and spiritual, he was unconsciously declaring an identity of struggle, lack, and victimhood. These unconscious declarations were more powerful than his conscious good intentions because they were backed by strong emotion and repetition. James, I explained, you are not a victim of circumstances. You are creative consciousness, and circumstances are the outpicturing of your dominant mental patterns. The crises in your life are not punishments or tests. They are your consciousness trying to get your attention, trying to show you the patterns that need to be changed. I worked with James to understand that every crisis was actually an opportunity to identify and transform unconscious limiting patterns. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? He learned to ask, what is this experience showing me about my consciousness? What pattern am I ready to release? What new identity am I ready to embody? When the next financial challenge arose, instead of declaring, "I am always struggling with money," James began to affirm, "I am learning to embody abundance consciousness. This challenge is showing me where I still hold patterns of lack so I can transform them." When health issues emerged, instead of thinking, "I am prone to illness," he declared, "I am perfect health expressing through temporary healing experiences. My body is teaching me to align more completely with my wholeness." This shift from victim consciousness to creator consciousness was transformational for James. Instead of feeling powerless in the face of challenges, he began to feel empowered to use every experience as an opportunity for growth and transformation. The remarkable thing was that, as James embraced his role as the creator of his experience, the crises began to decrease in frequency and intensity. His financial situation stabilized as he released poverty consciousness. His health improved as he embodied wellness consciousness. His relationships became more harmonious as he took responsibility for his part in all conflicts. "Dr. Murphy," James said, "I understand now that nothing was ever happening to me, everything was happening through me. Every crisis was my consciousness showing me patterns that were ready to be released. When I stopped being a victim of my experiences and started being the conscious creator of my experiences, everything changed." This brings me to the seventh mystery, the law of vibration and resonance. This law states that consciousness is vibrational in nature, and you attract experiences that resonate with your dominant vibrational frequency. When you declare, "I am prosperous," you are not just making a statement, you are establishing a vibrational frequency. That frequency then attracts people, circumstances, opportunities, and resources that resonate with prosperity consciousness. When you declare, "I am loved," you emit a frequency of love that attracts loving relationships, loving experiences, and loving opportunities into your life. But here's the crucial point. It's not just the words you say that determine your frequency, it's the feeling behind the words, the conviction with which you hold them, and the consistency with which you embody them. Let me share with you the story of a woman named Patricia, who came to understand this principle in a beautiful way. Patricia had been struggling with loneliness for many years. She longed for a romantic relationship, close friendships, and a sense of community, but no matter what she tried, she remained isolated and alone. "Dr. Murphy," she said, "I affirm every day that I am loved and lovable. I visualize myself in happy relationships. I've tried online dating, social groups, volunteer work, everything I can think of to meet people. But I'm still alone. What am I doing wrong?" I helped Patricia understand that while she was saying the words, "I am loved," her dominant vibrational frequency was actually loneliness, desperation, and unworthiness. She was trying to use affirmations to attract love, while simultaneously radiating the energy of lack of love. "Patricia," I explained, "love is not something you need to attract from outside yourself. Love is what you are. When you truly embody love, consciousness, you become a magnet for loving experiences." I worked with Patricia to help her understand that her loneliness was not because she was unlovable, but because she had forgotten her true nature as love itself. I taught her to begin each day by connecting with the love that she is, rather than focusing on the love she wanted to receive. Every morning, I instructed, "Spend time feeling yourself as love expressing through human form. Feel love for yourself, for your life, for the opportunity to express love in the world. Fill yourself so completely with love that you overflow with it." I also taught Patricia to begin loving everyone and everything around her without waiting for love to be returned. She began sending love to strangers on the street, blessing everyone she encountered, appreciating the beauty in nature, and finding things to love in every situation. This was challenging at first, because Patricia's mind wanted to focus on what she wasn't receiving, but I helped her understand that focusing on lack of love was creating more lack of love. To experience love, she needed to be love. The transformation was remarkable. As Patricia began to embody love consciousness rather than loneliness consciousness, her entire energy shifted. People began to respond to her differently. Strangers would smile at her for no apparent reason. Cashiers and service workers would engage her in friendly conversation. Neighbors who had never spoken to her before began greeting her warmly. Within a few months, Patricia found herself surrounded by loving friendships that seemed to appear effortlessly. She met her future husband at a coffee shop, not through a dating app or matchmaking service, but through the natural magnetism of love consciousness. Dr. Murphy, she told me, I realize now that I was never really alone. I was love itself, temporarily experiencing the illusion of separation, when I remembered my true nature and began radiating love consciousness. Love began flowing to me from everywhere. I wasn't attracting love, I was expressing love, and love naturally returns to itself. This brings me to the eighth mystery, the principle of mental alchemy. This is the ability to transmute any negative experience into positive growth through the power of your I am consciousness. Most people are victims of their circumstances because they allow external conditions to determine their internal state. When something challenging happens, they automatically adopt the identity of victim, sufferer, or failure. But when you understand that you are I am that I am consciousness, you realize that you can choose your response to any situation and thereby transform its meaning and effect in your life. Let me tell you about a remarkable man named Michael, who exemplified this principle under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Michael was diagnosed with a terminal illness and given 6 months to live. The doctors were certain that his condition was irreversible and that he should prepare for the end of his life. Instead of accepting this diagnosis as his reality, Michael chose to see it as an opportunity to demonstrate the power of consciousness over circumstances. Dr. Murphy, he said when he came to see me, I refuse to declare myself to be dying. I choose to declare myself to be living more fully than ever before. Michael understood that his diagnosis was not a truth about his identity, it was simply information about his current physical condition. He chose to identify not with the condition but with the consciousness that was experiencing the condition. I am not a dying man, he would declare. I am eternal consciousness, having a temporary experience of physical challenge. I am not a victim of disease. I am an opportunity for divine healing to manifest. But Michael went beyond just positive declarations. He used his illness as a catalyst for deeper spiritual awakening. He began to live each day with an stard, intensity, and appreciation that he had never experienced when he thought he had unlimited time. He mended relationships that had been broken for years. He expressed love to family and friends with a depth and sincerity that transformed everyone around him. He pursued creative projects that he had been postponing. He helped other people who were facing similar challenges. Most remarkably, Michael began to see his illness not as a punishment or random misfortune but as a gift that was teaching him to live more authentically and love more fully. He transformed what others saw as a tragedy into an opportunity for profound growth and service. The outcome of Michael's story was extraordinary. His tumor began to shrink. His energy returned. His doctors were baffled by improvements that contradicted all their expectations. Within a year, Michael was declared to be in complete remission. But the even more extraordinary outcome was the transformation in Michael's character and consciousness. The man who emerged from this experience was more alive, more loving, more joyful, and more spiritually awakened than he had ever been before his illness. Dr. Murphy, he told me, I realize now that my illness was not something that happened to me, it was something that happened for me. It was consciousness, using a physical challenge to wake me up to my true nature and purpose. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything because it taught me who I really am. Michael's story illustrates that when you truly embody I am that I am consciousness, there are no victims, only opportunities for consciousness to know itself more fully and express itself more completely. This leads me to the ninth mystery, the power of unified field consciousness. When you truly understand that you are I am that I am, you realize that you are not separate from anyone or anything else. All of creation is one consciousness expressing itself through countless forms and experiences. This understanding radically transforms your relationship with other people. Instead of seeing others as separate beings who might help or hurt you, you begin to see them as other expressions of the same consciousness that you are. This shifts your interactions from a basis of competition manipulation, or neediness to a basis of love, service, and mutual recognition. Let me share with you the story of a teacher named Susan, who came to understand this principle in her work with difficult students. Susan taught in an inner-city school, where many of her students came from challenging backgrounds. They were often angry, disruptive, and resistant to learning. For years, Susan had struggled with these students, seeing them as problems to be solved, or obstacles to overcome. She would declare to herself, "I am frustrated. I am overwhelmed. I am not making a difference. And these kids are impossible." When Susan learned about I am that I am consciousness, she began to see her students completely differently. Instead of seeing them as separate, difficult individuals, she began to see them as expressions of the same divine consciousness that she was, temporarily experiencing challenges and confusion. Every morning, Susan told me, I began to look at each student and silently declare, "I am that I am, and so are you. You are divine wisdom seeking to express itself. You are love that has forgotten its nature. You are creative potential waiting to be awakened." This shift in Susan's consciousness created an immediate change in her classroom energy. Students who had been resistant and disruptive began to respond to her differently. They sensed that she saw something in them that they couldn't see in themselves. Susan began to speak to her students not as someone trying to control their behavior, but as someone recognizing their divine potential. Instead of focusing on what they were doing wrong, she began to call forth what was right within them. I would look at the most challenging student and see the genius waiting to emerge, Susan explained. I would see past their anger to the hurt that was underneath. I would see past their resistance to the longing for recognition and love. And I would speak to that deeper truth. The transformation in Susan's classroom was remarkable. Students who had been considered hopeless began to excel academically. Young people, who had been angry and aggressive, began to show kindness and leadership. The entire atmosphere shifted from one of conflict and struggle to one of mutual respect and shared purpose. But the most profound change was in Susan herself. She went from being a teacher who was burned out and frustrated to being an educator who was energized and inspired. She realized that her true role was not to impart information, but to help her students remember their own divine nature. "Dr. Murphy," Susan said, "when I understood that I am, and my students are that they are, teaching became a completely different experience. I'm not trying to fix broken children. I'm helping divine beings remember who they are. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to call forth greatness. Every difficult moment becomes a chance to demonstrate love in action." Susan's story illustrates the profound power that comes from recognizing the divine nature not just in yourself but in everyone around you. When you see others as expressions of the same I am consciousness that you are, your relationships become vehicles for mutual awakening and blessing. This brings me to the 10th and final mystery, the principle of infinite expansion. When you truly embody I am that I am consciousness, you realize that there are no limits to what you can be, do, or experience. The only limitations in your life are the ones you accept through your identity declarations. Most people live within the boundaries of what they think is possible for someone like them. They look at their past, their circumstances, their apparent limitations, and they declare themselves to be bound by these factors. But when you understand your true nature as infinite creative consciousness, you realize that your past does not determine your future. Your circumstances do not define your possibilities, and your apparent limitations are simply invitations to transcend them. Let me share with you one final story that illustrates this principle beautifully. A young man named David came to see me who had been born into poverty, had received very little formal education, and had been told by everyone around him that he would never amount to much. "Dr. Murphy," he said, "I have big dreams, but everyone tells me I'm being unrealistic. They say I should accept my station in life and be grateful for what I have. They say people like me don't achieve the kind of success I'm dreaming of. Should I give up my dreams and accept their limitations?" I looked at this young man and could see the divine spark burning brightly within him despite all the conditioning that was trying to dim it. "David," I said, "the only question that matters is not whether others think your dreams are realistic. but whether you are willing to declare yourself to be the kind of person who achieves those dreams. I taught David that his external circumstances had absolutely no power over his internal identity. He could choose to identify with poverty, lack of education, and limitation, or he could choose to identify with the infinite creative potential that was his true nature. Every morning, I instructed, declare yourself to be exactly who you need to be to achieve your dreams. Don't wait for circumstances to change before you adopt this identity. Don't wait for evidence before you assume this reality. Begin immediately to think, feel, speak, and act as the person you are choosing to become. David began to declare himself to be, I am successful. I am intelligent. I am creative. I am worthy of achieving my highest dreams. But more importantly, he began to embody these declarations through his daily choices and actions. When faced with his lack of formal education, instead of declaring, I am uneducated, David began to affirm, I am a natural learner who absorbs knowledge effortlessly. He began reading voraciously, studying successful people, and educating himself in areas related to his dreams. When confronted with his financial limitations, instead of thinking, I am poor, David declared, I am resourceful and creative in finding ways to achieve my goals. He began to see obstacles as opportunities for creative problem solving rather than as evidence of impossibility. When others tried to discourage him by pointing out his disadvantages, instead of accepting their limitations, David would respond, I appreciate your concern, but I choose to see possibilities where you see problems. I am not bound by what has been, I am creating what will be. The transformation in David's life was extraordinary, but it didn't happen overnight. It required consistent daily embodiment of his chosen identity, especially when circumstances seemed to contradict his declarations. There were moments of doubt, times when the old programming of limitation tried to reassert itself, periods when progress seemed slow or non-existent. But David had learned the secret that most people never understand. Persistence in consciousness is the key to transformation in circumstances. He maintained his new identity declarations not because he saw immediate evidence of their truth, but because he knew they were true at the deepest level of reality. Within 5 years, David had built a successful business from nothing. Within 10 years, he had become wealthy by any standard. Within 15 years, he had become a philanthropist helping other young people from disadvantaged backgrounds achieve their own dreams. But the most remarkable aspect of David's transformation was not his external success but his internal understanding. He had proven to himself and others that no external limitation has the power to contain infinite consciousness when that consciousness knows its true nature and power. Dr. Murphy, David told me years later, I realize now that I was never really poor or uneducated or limited. I was infinite creative potential temporarily experiencing the illusion of limitation. When I changed my identity declarations, I didn't become someone new, I remembered who I had always been. Every achievement, every success, every breakthrough was just consciousness expressing its natural abundance through the form called David. David's story illustrates the ultimate truth about I am that I am consciousness. There are literally no limits to what you can experience when you align your identity with your divine nature. Every apparent limitation is simply an invitation to expand your understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. Now, my dear friend, as we come toward the close of our time together, I want to share with you some of the most advanced practices that will help you not just understand these principles intellectually, but embody them so completely that they become your natural way of being. The first advanced practice is what I call continuous identity monitoring. This involves maintaining moment-to-moment awareness of what you are declaring yourself to be through your thoughts, words, feelings, and actions. Most people are unconscious of their identity declarations throughout the day. They slip in and out of empowering and limiting self-concepts without awareness, wondering why their experiences are inconsistent with their conscious desires. To master I am that I am consciousness, you must become vigilant about your identity declarations. Set a timer to go off every hour during your waking day. When it chimes, ask yourself, What have I been declaring myself to be in the past hour? Have my thoughts, words, and actions been consistent with my chosen identity? If you discover that you've been operating from limiting declarations, don't judge yourself. Simply acknowledge the pattern and immediately return to your chosen identity. The goal is not perfection, but awareness and consistent course correction. The second advanced practice is identity meditation. This is a form of meditation where you don't try to empty your mind or achieve a particular state, but rather spend time feeling yourself into your desired identity. Sit quietly and ask yourself, who would I be if I were expressing my highest potential? What would it feel like to embody this identity completely? Then spend 20 to 30 minutes feeling yourself as this person. Feel their confidence, their peace, their joy, their love, their power, their wisdom. Don't visualize external circumstances or imagine specific scenarios. Simply feel the internal state of being this person. Feel their relationship with themselves, with others, with life itself. Feel how they move through challenges, how they respond to opportunities, how they exist in the world. Practice this identity meditation daily until this expanded sense of self becomes more familiar and natural than your old limited identity. You'll know you're making progress when your desired identity begins to feel more real and true than your previous self-concept. The third advanced practice is what I call reality field creation. This involves using your I am consciousness to create an entire field of reality around yourself that supports and reflects your chosen identity. Instead of just changing your thoughts about yourself, you begin to change everything in your environment that reinforces old patterns. You reorganize your physical space to reflect your new identity. You change your daily routines to align with who you're becoming. You modify your relationships to support your growth. If you're embodying prosperity consciousness, you begin to surround yourself with beauty, order, and quality within your current means. You dress, walk, and carry yourself as a prosperous person would. You make financial decisions from abundance consciousness rather than scarcity consciousness. If you're embodying health consciousness, you create an environment that supports vitality. You fill your home with fresh air, natural light, and living plants. You choose foods, activities, and relationships that nourish your well-being. The goal is to create a total reality field that constantly reinforces your chosen identity rather than contradicting it. Every aspect of your environment becomes a mirror reflecting back your new self-concept. The fourth advanced practice is quantum identity shifting. This involves recognizing that you exist in multiple potential identities simultaneously, and you can consciously choose which one to collapse into reality at any moment. In quantum physics, particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapses them into a single state. Similarly, you exist in multiple potential identities simultaneously. The version of you that is completely healthy, the version that is abundantly prosperous, the version that is deeply loved, the version that is creatively fulfilled. These are not fantasies or future possibilities. They are present realities, existing in what quantum physicists call parallel dimensions or alternate timelines. When you make a conscious identity declaration, you are choosing to collapse one of these potential realities into your current experience. Practice shifting between these different versions of yourself throughout the day. When facing a health challenge, consciously shift into the version of you that is perfectly healthy. When dealing with financial concerns, shift into the version of you that is abundantly prosperous. When feeling lonely, shift into the version of you that is surrounded by love. This is not pretending or wishful thinking. This is conscious reality selection. You are not trying to become these versions of yourself. You are choosing to experience them now. The fifth advanced practice is collective consciousness influence. As you master your own I am consciousness, you begin to recognize that your individual consciousness is part of a larger collective consciousness that includes your family, your community, your nation, and ultimately all of humanity. Your personal transformation doesn't happen in isolation. It influences and uplifts the consciousness of everyone around you. When you embody health consciousness, you contribute to the collective healing of humanity. When you express love consciousness, you add to the total amount of love available in the world. Begin to see your personal practice not just as self-improvement but as service to the collective awakening of humanity. Every time you choose love over fear, abundance over lack, peace over conflict, you are raising the vibration of the entire human family. This understanding gives your practice a deeper meaning and accelerates your transformation. You're not just changing your own life, you're participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. The sixth advanced practice is temporal identity mastery. This involves recognizing that your I am consciousness exists beyond linear time and can influence both your past and your future. Your past experiences are not fixed realities that determine your present identity. They are memories held in consciousness, and consciousness has the power to reinterpret and transform the meaning of those memories. When you change your identity, you literally change the past by changing its significance in your present experience. Similarly, your future is not predetermined by current circumstances. It is being created by your present identity declarations. When you embody your desired identity now, you are creating a future that matches that identity. Practice seeing your entire timeline, past, present, and future, as fluid and malleable to your consciousness. Send love and blessing to your past self. Forgive all mistakes and failures by understanding that they were simply consciousness learning and growing. Claim your desired future by embodying it now. The seventh advanced practice is morphic field alignment. This involves recognizing that every identity you can imagine already exists as what biologist Rupert Sheldrake calls a morphic field, a field of organized information that makes that identity possible. When you choose to embody perfect health, you are not creating something new, you are aligning with the eternal morphic field of perfect health that already exists. When you declare yourself to be abundantly prosperous, you are connecting with the morphic field of prosperity that has been established by everyone who has ever embodied that consciousness. This understanding makes transformation easier because you realize you're not trying to become something impossible, you're simply aligning with patterns that already exist in the field of infinite possibility. Research the lives and consciousness of people who have embodied the identity you desire. Study their thoughts, their beliefs, their daily practices, their way of being. As you align with their consciousness, you tap into the morphic field they helped to establish. The eighth advanced practice is dimensional identity integration. This involves recognizing that you exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality, and in some of those dimensions, you are already living the life you desire. In the dimension of pure consciousness, you are already perfect, whole, and complete. In the dimension of infinite potential, you already have access to everything you could ever desire. In the dimension of divine love, you are already unconditionally loved and loving. These are not metaphorical dimensions, they are actual levels of reality that you can access through your consciousness. Practice shifting your awareness between these different dimensions throughout the day. When you're caught in the dimension of physical limitation, consciously shift to the dimension of infinite possibility. When you're trapped in the dimension of fear and lack, move to the dimension of love and abundance. When you're stuck in the dimension of separation, ascend to the dimension of unity and oneness. The ninth advanced practice is identity transmission. As you master I am that I am consciousness, you develop the ability to transmit that consciousness to others simply through your presence. You become a living demonstration of divine possibility. People are drawn to you not because of what you say or do, but because of who you are. Your embodied consciousness awakens dormant possibilities in others. Practice holding the awareness that everyone you encounter is the same I am consciousness that you are, temporarily forgetting their true nature. See your role as helping them remember who they really are, through the energy you embody and transmit. This is the highest form of service, not trying to fix or change others, but simply being so aligned with your divine nature, that others are inspired to remember their own divine nature. The 10th and final advanced practice is infinite identity expansion. This involves recognizing that there is no limit to how much of your divine nature you can embody and express. Most people, even those who understand these principles, still think in terms of limitations. They might expand from poor to comfortable, from sick to healthy, from lonely to loved, but they still operate within boundaries of what they think is possible. True I am that I am consciousness recognizes no boundaries. If you can heal a minor illness, you can heal any illness. If you can create modest prosperity, you can create unlimited abundance. If you can experience human love, you can experience divine love. Practice expanding your sense of what's possible for you. Every time you achieve a goal or overcome a limitation, immediately set your sights on something greater. Not from ego or greed, but from the understanding that consciousness itself is unlimited. Your expansion serves the expansion of all consciousness. As you demonstrate greater and greater possibilities, you make those possibilities available to everyone. Now, my beloved friend, as we prepare to conclude this profound journey together, I want to address some of the deepest questions and challenges that arise when one begins to live from I am that I am consciousness. The first question people often ask is, if I am divine consciousness, why do I sometimes feel so human, so limited, so ordinary? The answer is that feeling human is not a contradiction to being divine. It's an expression of divine creativity. The infinite chose to experience itself through the finite. The unlimited chose to know itself through apparent limitation. The eternal chose to express itself through temporal experience. You are not a human trying to become divine. You are divine consciousness having a human experience. Your moments of feeling limited or ordinary are not evidence that you're not divine. They are opportunities for divinity to experience contrast, growth, and the joy of remembering its true nature. Every challenge is consciousness playing hide and seek with itself. The second question is, how do I maintain this consciousness when others around me don't understand or support it? This is one of the greatest challenges on the path of conscious living, and I want to address it honestly. When you begin to embody I am that I am consciousness, you may find that some relationships become strained. People who are comfortable with limitation may feel threatened by your expansion. Those who identify with victimhood may be uncomfortable with your empowerment. The key is to hold compassion for those who haven't yet awakened to their divine nature, while maintaining your own alignment with truth. You cannot force others to see what you see, but you can be a living example of what's possible. Sometimes this means having difficult conversations with family members who try to keep you small. Sometimes it means limiting your time with people who consistently drain your energy or challenge your new identity. Sometimes it means finding new communities of people who understand and support your growth. Remember that your primary responsibility is to your own awakening and service. You cannot save others by diminishing yourself. You serve others best by being the fullest expression of your divine nature. The third question is, how do I know if I'm really embodying this consciousness or just pretending? This is a wise question, because there is a difference between authentic embodiment and spiritual bypassing. Authentic embodiment of I am that I am consciousness results in greater peace, love, joy, and service. You become more kind, more patient, more generous, more forgiving. You develop genuine confidence that doesn't need to prove itself or diminish others. Spiritual bypassing, on the other hand, uses spiritual concepts to avoid dealing with real emotions and responsibilities. It often results in arrogance, judgment of others, who are less conscious, and an inability to deal with practical matters. True I am consciousness makes you more human, not less. It makes you more effective in the world, not more detached from it. It increases your capacity for genuine relationship, not your need to be above others. The fourth question is, what about suffering and injustice in the world? How can I claim to be divine consciousness when there's so much pain around me? This is perhaps the most challenging question for those who embody this consciousness. Understanding that you are divine consciousness doesn't mean becoming indifferent to suffering or pretending that injustice doesn't exist. It means recognizing that suffering and injustice are the result of collective unconsciousness, humanity's forgetting of its divine nature. Your role is not to judge or fix the world, but to be a healing presence within it. Every person who awakens to their divine nature contributes to the healing of the collective unconsciousness. Every act of love, every expression of peace, every demonstration of abundance adds to the positive transformation of the world. You serve suffering humanity not by identifying with suffering, but by embodying the love, wisdom, and power that can transform suffering. You address injustice not through anger and hatred, but through the creative consciousness that can imagine and manifest better systems. The fifth question is, how do I handle setbacks and apparent failures while maintaining this consciousness? This is crucial, because setbacks are inevitable on any path of growth. When you experience what appears to be failure or regression, remember that consciousness is learning and expanding through every experience. What looks like failure from the human perspective may be redirection from the divine perspective. Instead of declaring, "I am failing," when challenges arise, declare, "I am learning and growing stronger." Instead of thinking, "This proves I'm not really divine," affirm, "This is divinity exploring new aspects of creativity and resilience." Use every setback as an opportunity to deepen your understanding and strengthen your embodiment of truth. Often, our greatest failures become our greatest teachers and lead to our most significant breakthroughs. The sixth question is, how do I balance spiritual understanding with practical responsibilities? Many people worry that focusing on consciousness will make them impractical or ineffective in worldly matters. The truth is exactly the opposite. When you operate from I am that I am consciousness, you become more effective, not less. You make better decisions because you're not clouded by fear and limitation. You achieve better results because you're aligned with creative flow rather than fighting against it. Your spiritual practice should enhance your practical effectiveness, not diminish it. If your spiritual understanding is making you less capable of handling work, relationships, finances, or health, then you may be misunderstanding or misapplying the principles. True consciousness makes you a better employee, a better spouse, a better parent, a better citizen. It doesn't remove you from the world. It helps you engage with the world from a place of greater wisdom, love, and power. Now, let me share with you some of the most profound realizations that come to those who fully embody I am that I am consciousness. These are insights that cannot be taught intellectually, but must be experienced through practice and embodiment. The first realization is that there is no separation between you and your good. You are not trying to attract abundance, you are abundance temporarily experiencing apparent lack. You are not seeking love, you are love temporarily forgetting its nature. You are not pursuing success, you are success, temporarily exploring what it feels like to struggle. When this realization dawns, the whole game changes. You stop chasing what you want and start expressing what you are. You stop trying to get your needs met and start being the fulfillment of those needs. You stop seeking outside yourself and start being what you were seeking. The second realization is that every person you encounter is also I am that I am consciousness, wearing different costumes and playing different roles. The difficult person is consciousness exploring limitation. The loving person is consciousness remembering its nature. The teacher is consciousness sharing its wisdom. The student is consciousness expanding its understanding. This realization transforms all your relationships, from ego transactions to soul recognitions. You stop trying to get something from others